A military helicopter is a helicopter that is either specifically built or converted for use by military forces. A military helicopter's mission is a function of its design or conversion. The most common use of military helicopters is transport of troops. But transport helicopters can be modified or converted to perform other missions such as combat, search and rescue, medical evacuation, airborne command post, or even armed with weapons for attacking ground targets. Specialized military helicopters are intended to conduct specific missions. Examples of specialized military helicopters are attack helicopters, observation helicopters, and anti-submarine warfare helicopters. Military helicopters play an integral part in the sea, land, and air operations of modern militaries. Generally, manufacturers will develop airframes in different weight, size classes which can be adapted to different roles through the installation of mission-specific equipment. To minimize development costs, the basic airframes can be stretched and shortened, be updated with new engines and electronics, and have the entire mechanical and flight systems mated to new fuselages to create new aircraft. For example, the UH-1 has given rise to a number of derivatives through stretching and re-engineering, including the AH-1. Modern helicopters have introduced modular systems which allow the same airframe to be configured for different roles. For example, the EH-101 in Royal Navy service can be rapidly configured for ASW or transport missions in hours, to at the same time retain flexibility and limit costs. It is possible to fit an airframe for but not with a system. For example, in the US Army's AH-64D variants are all fitted to be able to take the longbow radar system, but not enough sets have been bought to equip the whole force. The systems can be fitted to only those airframes that need it, or when finances allow the purchase of enough units. Most military helicopters are armored to some extent. However, all equipment is limited to the installed power and lift capability and the limits installed equipment places on useful payload. The most extensive armor is placed around the pilots, engines, transmission, and fuel tanks. Fuel lines, control cables, and power to the tail rotor may also be shrouded by Kevlar armor. The most heavily armored helicopters are attack, assault, and special forces helicopters. In transport helicopters, the crew compartment may or may not be fully armored. A compromise being to give the passengers Kevlar-lined seats but to leave the compartment for the most part unarmored. Survivability is enhanced by redundancy and the placement of components to protect each other. For example, the Black Hawk family of helicopters uses 2 engines and can continue to fly on only one. The engines are separated by the transmission and placed so that if attacked from any one flank, the engine on that flank acts to protect the transmission and the engine on the other side from damage. Aviation electronics, or avionics, such as communication radios and navigation aids, are common on most military helicopters. Specialized avionics, such as electronic countermeasures and identification friend or foe systems, are military-specific systems that can also be installed on military helicopters. Other payload or mission systems are installed either permanently or temporarily, based on specific mission requirements. Optical and IR cameras for scout helicopters, dunking sonar and search radar for anti-submarine helicopters, extra radio transceivers and computers for helicopters used as airborne command posts. Armor, fire suppression, dynamic and electronic systems enhancements are invisible to casual inspection. As a cost-cutting measure, some nations and services have been tempted to use what are essentially commercial helicopters for military purposes. For example, it has been reported that the PRC is carrying out a rapid enlargement of its assault helicopter regiments with the civilian version of the Mi-17. These helicopters without armor and electronic countermeasures will function well enough for training exercises and photo opportunities but would be suicidal to deploy in the assault role in actual combat situations. The intention of China appears to be to retrofit these helicopters with locally produced electronics and armor when possible, freeing available funds to allow rapid creation of enough regiments to equip each of its group armies. allowing a widespread buildup of experience in helicopter operations. Attack helicopters are helicopters used in the anti-tank and close air support roles. The first of the modern attack helicopters was the Vietnam-era AH-1 Cobra, which pioneered the now classic format of pilot and weapons officer seated in tandem in a narrow fuselage, chin-mounted guns, and rockets and missiles mounted on stub wings to enable them to find and identify their targets. Some modern attack helicopters are equipped with VAR